return up to 40,000 Canadian dollars to make sure you're protected. This isn't just a promise, it's my personal guarantee, because I stand behind what we've built. If you're hearing my voice right now, that means something. It means you're among the very few Canadians with access to something that, until recently, was closed to the general public. Today, I'm sharing with you a platform developed in partnership with Canada's leading banks and top economists. It's
Everybody inside feels optimistic about what happened and transpired yesterday in Geneva. Secretary Rubio, Special Envoy Witkoff, the whole team really worked through the points of that 28-point peace plan that the United States authored with input from both sides, the Russians and the Ukrainians. And ultimately, the vast majority of these points have been agreed upon. And I saw a lot of misinformation and rumors and allegations against people in this building, such as Secretary Rubio and Special Envoy Witkoff and the President himself, that they are favoring one side over the other. That could not be further from the truth. I have watched as the President and his team have worked around the clock overnight with both sides on endless phone calls, endless meetings to try to bring this war to a close.
That's White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt yesterday on President Trump's revised peace plan for the Russia-Ukraine war after productive talks in Geneva. While there are no official plans for Ukrainian President Zelensky to go back to Washington soon, his officials are now pushing for a meeting before the end of the month. Top U.S. military officials reportedly meeting with the Russians and the Ukrainian leadership in Abu Dhabi today as Russia and Ukraine traded deadly strikes overnight. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst. He is chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane, back with us. General, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here. What is your assessment of this peace plan between Russia and Ukraine?
Well, certainly it got off on the wrong start because it seemed so one-sided towards Russia. And the people who put this together certainly didn't expect it to be leaked, but in Washington, D.C., unfortunately, a lot of things do get leaked. And I think given what's taken in terms of stitching together a revised plan, they probably would like a do-over on that first one. But look, it has always been a process. It always was a start point to negotiations and knew from the outset this thing has got to be modified. And that's what the meeting in Geneva was all about, led by Secretary Rubio on the United States side and Chief of Staff to President Zelensky, Yermak, on the Ukrainian side, and then they brought European leaders in. So I haven't seen the results of it, so it's hard for me to comment what's in that plan. But certainly there were so many no-go things in the other plan that they had to modify that. There likely are still some very contentious issues that need to be resolved. The numbers, are sort of irrelevant when people say 80% of the plan is workable and 90% of it is, or there's only a few things that need to be still negotiated. Well, those things that still need to be negotiated, can be deal breakers because there's so much at stake. Let me give you an example. Russia wants the Ukraine to give up the rest of the Donetsk region and voluntarily give it up. And Ukraine doesn't want to do that because they have a major defensive belt there that they have put into for a number of years. And the Institute for the Study of War looks at that and knows for a fact that Russia cannot take that militarily. As a matter of fact, it would take 2 to 3 years for them to take it. And that's the reality of it. And what is happening here is certainly Zelensky doesn't want to give that up. And why not? Because beyond that defensive belt, Maria, so our audience understand, is open terrain that's not defensible, that leads to the city of Kharkiv and eventually to Kyiv. In other words, it is a pathway to losing the country.
Wow.
The Russian generals certainly understand that, and that is why they're pressuring, from their perspective, voluntarily give that up and we'll give you some other land in return. And that's likely, I can't speak for Zelensky, but I surmise that's likely going to be a red line. He also wants to have, if we're going to make a deal, I got to have some security guarantees that Putin is not going to attack successfully because he's broken every deal he's ever been involved in Ukraine and in Syria.
Right.
So he wants some forces in there to make certain he's not going to attack, some means of deterrence. And that has to likely get worked on. And the administration